Hey guys, I want to touch on just one small aspect of the case of Jeffrey MacDonald. Remember that Colette MacDonald, her maiden name was Stevenson. Colette and her daughters Kimberly and Kristen and her unborn son were murdered on February 17 of 1970. Her husband, Dr. Jeffrey MacDonald, was investigated and he was arrested. And he was a captain in the Army at the time. He was a Green Beret. So they held what is called an Article 32 hearing to determine whether or not he would be court-martialed. At the end of the Article 32 hearing, he was found actually to be innocent, which is interesting because that isn't normally done. So he was a free man, and he headed out to the West Coast, and he got a really good job at one of the hospitals. And he got a fancy boat, and he had a lot of girlfriends, and he was really living it up. He was also a guest on the Dick Cavett Show. On December 15 of 1970, he appeared on the popular talk show. His wife and children were murdered in February of that same year, right? So I think that Dick Cavett expected him to be rather somber and rather serious. And in an interview many years later, Dick Cavett said that Jeffrey MacDonald's affect was wrong. He said it was totally wrong. Cavett said that his affect was, wow, your wife and children were murdered. Very serious, very somber. And that Jeffrey MacDonald's response was like, hey, yeah, isn't that something? Cavett said in the interview that MacDonald sounded like Bob Hope. When he appeared on the Cavett Show, Cavett asked him, where are the investigators now? Meaning the Army investigators who had accused him of murdering his wife and children. Here's MacDonald's response. Well, most of them have been transferred. It's the Army way of handling things. If someone really fouls up, you either give them a medal or you transfer them. And then the audience laughed. And you can see Jeffrey MacDonald smiling, like he is really enjoying the attention. Well, his wife's family was not very happy at all after seeing Jeffrey MacDonald appearing on the Dick Cavett Show. And what bothered them the most was that when he appeared on the show, he was focused on how he was mistreated or how he was, wrongly accused. But think about it. If he didn't murder his wife and children, and just 10 months later, he's on a national and very popular television show, doesn't it make sense he would have taken that opportunity to plead for help in finding whoever it was who murdered his family? He didn't. He sat there cracking jokes and grinning for the camera. Don't you wonder how things may have turned out differently had he not appeared on the Dick Cavett Show? Had his wife's family not been offended by his appearance? because it was just a short time later, just I think the next week, that his father-in-law was able to finally get his hands on the transcripts from the Article 32 hearing. And he dug in. He spent all of Christmas Day, I believe it was, going over the transcripts and highlighting any discrepancies that he noticed between the transcripts and what Jeffrey MacDonald had said to him. Also remember that while Jeffrey MacDonald was still a free man, that he called his father-in-law one night and told him that he had hunted down one of the people he suspected was involved with the murders of his wife and children. He said that he spoke with him at a bar, that he confirmed his suspicions, and he took him outside and he murdered him. Well, of course, he was lying. And by then, it looks like Jeffrey MacDonald's in-laws had started taping his phone calls. Isn't it interesting? Because had he gone across the country and started his new life, but not appeared on the talk shows, and had he not called his in-laws to say he murdered some random guy who he suspected of killing his wife and children, had he told a story more consistent with the transcripts of the Article 32 hearing, and with the evidence, by the way, then maybe his wife's father would not have been so adamant about opening a new investigation. And without Colette's father fighting for justice for his daughter and for his grandchildren, Jeffrey MacDonald would likely still be a free man.